Hello, my friends. Good to see you again. This is 7 English Bible School. Thanks for joining us. And once again, your presence means a lot to me. God bless you and keep you.
A lot of the NHS is working on goodwill. And unfortunately, people are starting to get tired and exhausted now. So I don't know how much longer goodwill on its own is going to run us.
Along the corridor, another intensive care unit, this reserved for non-COVID patients. It's full.
I'm going to be struggling to look after patients who need intensive care who do not have coronavirus.
In the past week, around 10 critically ill patients have had to be transferred between hospitals in the region in the search for a bed.
We're hanging by a thread. It's quite tight. Each time a new patient comes into the emergency department, we have to reshuffle, so we all feel that pressure 24/7.
Sometimes it's hard to focus on the positives.
Pubs, restaurants, gyms, non-essential shops and places of worship will all be affected. Some Conservative MPs are strongly opposed to the measure. They say it's not justified and that it will cause immense damage to the economy. There'll be a parliamentary vote at Westminster on Wednesday. But the Prime Minister warned that the NHS could be overwhelmed if no action was taken, with medical staff having to choose who to treat. Liverpool has the highest number of COVID patients in hospital in the UK. It's currently more than 460.
This is what happens when a city loses its grip on coronavirus.
I've never experienced pressure that's been even remotely like this.
I'm 58 now and I'm looking after patients that are my age or even younger than me.
The NHS risks failing the patients it's there to serve.
It is very depressing. If you're out there, if you need a new hip, if you're in pain, if you can't walk, we can't help you right now.
The COVID intensive care unit at the Royal Liverpool Hospital is at full stretch.
She's not synchronising.
Medical teams work non-stop to help patients struggling for breath. Like Douglas, who's 73, a former bus driver and crane operator.
I was doing okay, and then I suddenly went downhill.
The sealed plastic hood he's wearing enables oxygen to flow into his lungs under pressure.
It's a bit claustrophobic, but it's doing the job. That's all that matters to me.
He takes a dim view of those who downplay the seriousness of coronavirus.
All these people that go around saying it's a hoax, and it's just like a bit of a bad cold and whatnot and everything. They need to get their head straight, because I have never, ever been so ill in all my born days.
Critical care now depends on nurses redeployed from theatres and on others like Marie who've come out of retirement.
A lot of the NHS is working on goodwill. And unfortunately, people are starting to get tired and exhausted now. So I don't know how much longer goodwill on its own is going to run us.
Along the corridor, another intensive care unit, this reserved for non-COVID patients. It's full.
I'm going to be struggling to look after patients who need intensive care who do not have coronavirus.
In the past week, around 10 critically ill patients have had to be transferred between hospitals in the region in the search for a bed.
We're hanging by a thread. It's quite tight. Each time a new patient comes into the emergency department, we have to reshuffle, so we all feel that pressure 24/7. This is winter plus. People are right to say that these are pressures that occur every winter, but this time it's just a lot worse.
The trust isn't helped by its ageing buildings. A new hospital was meant to open 3 years ago to replace the Royal and is still not finished. Its other big hospital, Aintree University, serves the north of the city. In both, nearly all non-urgent surgery has been cancelled. The staff are needed in critical care.
Normally at this time of day, all of these operating theatres would be busy and there would be a patient on this operating table having an operation.
Last month, 9 urgent cancer operations had to be postponed, some at the last minute, because there were no intensive care beds available.
Of course, it's devastating for the patient themselves if they've come into a hospital expecting to have a potentially life-saving cancer operation, and the morning of the operation they're told the operation can't go ahead, and that's devastating for the patient and for the staff looking after the patient.
And there has been progress with COVID-19. The chances of surviving have improved. Ventilators are used more sparingly. There are some proven drug treatments. But sometimes it's hard to focus on the positives when the patients just keep coming.
What we've seen here in Liverpool should serve as a warning to other cities, other communities across the UK, that unless we keep coronavirus in check, then the NHS will come under extreme pressure.
The Prime Minister says a lockdown in England is needed to prevent a medical and moral disaster. And those on the front line are pleading with the public to follow the rules.
The message is, if you don't listen to us, if you don't adhere to those restrictions, you will harm your friends, you will harm your family, your neighbours, and you might even harm yourself.
I think it's fair to say there's a growing debate about the justification for the lockdown in England. The Prime Minister framing that in terms of the pressure on the NHS.
Yes, now the government says unless England goes into lockdown, then doctors will have to make hard choices about who to treat. Now that, as you've seen, is already happening in Liverpool. Now across the UK, there are roughly half the number of COVID inpatients in hospitals compared to the peak in April, and roughly a third of the number of patients on ventilators. But that doesn't tell the full story. In the first wave, intensive care units were dealing almost exclusively with COVID patients. People with other serious health problems simply stayed away from hospital. Now that's totally different now. Now we have all the usual demands on the health service plus COVID, and we're going into winter, not coming out of it. But protecting the NHS by locking down comes with its own costs, the impact on mental health, on livelihoods and liberties.